How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of is that Connie? Connie? Oh my God. Guys, I sent her out the link months ago, so she must have just tuned in now. It's been a while, Connie. Oh, let me get to the topic first before we introduce you again, because we're already losing people right now. So, hey guys, we're going to have a great show today. We're going to talk about how corrections is a career. Now, guys, if you're new in this profession, this show is for you, because this really is about understanding that corrections is not a job, it's a career. And we're going to tell you ways in which you can grow and find purpose. As we always say, run towards a purpose. Now, guys, mind you, the show is sponsored by three entities. We have American Military University. So if you guys are looking for that degree, seeking higher education, bring experience back into the classroom, check out American Military University. Very supportive of what we do on Care Talk. Also very supportive of the corrections profession. We also have Guardian RFID. From inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence, Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit GuardianRFID.com. Guys, don't forget, we also post videos on Guardian RFID as well. And we also have Shea USA. Spelling for this is C-E-I-A. C-E-I-A. Now, Shea USA is the world's leading weapon, cell phone, and contraband detection system manufacturer for corrections. For more information, contact Joe Vasquez at 440-561-7615. He's a subject matter expert, passionate about our industry, and he will take good care of you. And guys, tell them Tear Talk sent you. They're going to give me a little commercial soon, about 15 or 30 seconds long. It will show you some of the equipment that they have. Connie, what's up, man? How you been?
I've been doing okay. I've been under construction for a couple of days, so I'm sorry to have missed you guys just because we were doing that. So for Gangi to be talking junk, right? Like he started the show talking crap. Just know that I had good reason for being away, but I'm back now.
Yeah, and guys, is under construction medical for anything or no? Because I know you have that medical terminology.
No.
Oh, your house is under construction.
Yes.
All right, just want to make sure we get the jargon. You know, I didn't know. You said under construction. So Connie, it's been a while. There's been some people that, hey, who is this person? Never seen this beauty before. Can you introduce yourself?
Okay, so yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Connie Alleyne. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I'm also the podcast host of The Fly Behind the Wall, which I must say has not been done because I've been doing my my reconstruction. Exactly.
More move on that one, Connie.
I know. I need to do it now. I'm also the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. So if you haven't gotten your copy yet, you need to get it. That book has started to open so many doors as far as doing like book clubs and fireside chats and all this wonderfulness. So life has been just happening, and I'm excited to be back in the loop. The academy is growing. I'm meeting with some really interesting and new people in different states. And so that also gives me a different insight into corrections, because sometimes I be thinking like we experience everything up north, right? And, you know, I start to talk to folks who are in other places, smaller facilities, less progressive in policy, procedure, that type of stuff. And so it's interesting to learn sort of where other people are in corrections. So hopefully you guys use Tear Talk as a really great resource to kind of keep you up to snuff on like what are some of the things that are developing in corrections. Because Tear Talk, we literally talk about all the new, latest and greatest, I think most of the time. You know, we are in pretty progressive states as far as leading the charge on correctional services, correctional health care, all that goodness. So yeah.
Yeah, and you never know how far you are ahead until you kind of look at those other facilities. And sometimes they may not know how far back they are. Because don't forget, I mean, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but I think the good thing about this is an effort to bring things together. And I think that's cool. And again, that's intentional, obviously. So guys, I think this is a very important topic, corrections as a career, because So obviously, we do have to focus on retaining people. Don't get me wrong, especially as senior staff are losing them. We are, and that's part of this. Don't get me wrong. Corrections is a career. Obviously for senior staff, hopefully they see it as a career because I think it's a lot harder to leave a career than it is a job, and that is based on perspective. And also new people. If you're coming into the profession, I know that new people want to be part of a career. That's why I kind of steer away from the stepping stone mentality because even if you have plans to do something else, I feel that if you come in thinking it's a stepping stone, corrections is a stepping stone, or just a job, you're not giving this profession a fair chance. You're already kind of closed-minded to some potential. That doesn't mean that I said, let's say one day I want to be a police officer, but for now I'm going to go to corrections. I'm going to give corrections that fair chance because I don't know what it has to offer until I'm there. And maybe my mind will shift. I can find a purpose. So I just want to make sure that we have our mindset where it is. Corrections is a career, and we'll go ahead and explain why and where that growth is. But before we go into something, Connie, what's your thoughts on that perspective of career versus job and how we should see this profession?
Yeah, so I think that there's so many opportunities for growth and development in corrections that when you come in, you should be looking at it as a career because a career is something that like you're going to build upon. A job is just something you're there to make some money and then you're going to, move on shortly thereafter. So job, short term, career, something long term that you're going to be building on and sort of making a difference, right? Like you see down the road where you would want your career to be heading. And that's why I think when you come into corrections, really the mindset should shift a bit. Especially what we have to learn and what we go through from day to day. I can't just imagine that, like, you're not in it for the long haul, right? Because in all honesty, like, yeah, there are times I think that we might have some challenging days, but I also think there are times when we're able to affect positive change and do some really great things.
Right, I agree, obviously, and I want to mention something, guys. When I got into corrections right off the bat, I knew it was a career. There's no way I was going to do this whole academy and not commit myself to something. So the moment I got in, I looked for opportunities just in case I got bored or started to get antsy. Not saying it's the best reason to look for things because again, I was still young. I was just okay. Where's my way out? What can I escape into? But eventually, as I started loving this profession, I looked at things differently. It's like, where can I evolve? Where can I grow next? So at one point it was like, okay, just in case I don't like it, what else is being offered here? But when I started to love it, it was like, wow, what else can be offered here where I can create a bigger impact or where I can grow into, where I can evolve? So I want to read something to you guys, and it's going to be coming out of my daily reader. It's due out next year. This is May 18th, and it's called Run Towards a Purpose. And this is related to working in corrections, seeing it as a career, but making sure that you make the right choices for the right reasons. Because in corrections, you're going to get frustrated sometimes. You're going to maybe feel trapped sometimes, and that's going to want to make you kind of go or look elsewhere. And I want to make sure that when we make decisions to kind of move in this profession, that we're doing it for the right reasons, not because we're running away from something, but rather we're running towards something, towards a purpose. So just want to bear with me, guys. I want to read something, and at the very end, I'm going to have a quote from Todd Ishii, who is the commissioner for North Carolina Corrections. He's going to support the thought that I proposed. So I said, be advised, working in corrections is a career. I say it's a career because of the many opportunities to personally and professionally grow within this chosen profession, both upwards and lateral. Okay, so admin, investigations, department head, rank, specialized teams, etc. I mean, the list goes on, and we'll break into that. And it kind of goes with what Connie said before about corrections has so many areas for growth and development. Now, for some reason, I have SK instead of SO. So let me fix that. And look at that, guys. I just screwed. There you go. By correction. Hey, you like that? Correction.
I love it.
And I love it. By correction. All right, just want to thought about that. Maybe I did that on purpose. Okay, so when someone with the career mindset, so for me, a career mindset's all about growth, enters this profession, they're going to be looking around for areas of growth and development, exactly what Connie said. They're going to seek different opportunities, probably volunteer themselves a lot in their effort to find value, purpose, and hopefully enjoyment within this profession. Yes, I said enjoyment. Now, with that said, staff need to be mindful that the choices they make must reflect a greater purpose that they can run towards. The choice to move, the choice to grow in this profession, whether lateral or upwards, should never be motivated by what staff may be running from or escaping, but rather it should be inspired by a higher level purpose they are running towards. So we'll make that the destination. Now, sometimes the choice to move, to grow, to find value and purpose are not easy. Some cases, there may be a risk or a sacrifice that can limit staff's want to seek to move forward. In other cases, there may be such a desperate want to leave one area, let's say because they're frustrated or bored or feel hopelessness, that staff will look to jump into any opportunity with no plan or destination in mind, no greater value or purpose to pursue. For the latter, the reason behind the move becomes superficial and holds little to no weight when the new position attained has similar challenges that limit the drive to continue on and move forward. Best advice when it comes to making a career decision that can be life-altering is to look to be pulled by inspiration as opposed to being pushed by superficial external motivations that are really just surface level and truly lack sustenance in the long run. So let's say more money, escaping a crappy boss, etc. Basically, if staff's move is not inspired by purpose or growth, if there's no higher value being filtered when making a choice to move, there will be nothing to hold staff in place when time gets tough in the new position, as it will, and they look to escape once again. Now, that's my part. Now, to complement that quote, Commissioner Todd Ishii of North Carolina says, in all my years in corrections, I've seen coworkers come and go from positions for too many reasons to count. Long hours, stressful environment, tensions with peers. But in all those years, I've also seen people come and go in search of new opportunities, the chance to make an impact, or the foresight to recognize a problem and the desire to step in and help fix it. As Commissioner of North Carolina Prisons, that is the person I want to hire and promote, because they're not simply stepping into a new role to get away from the last one. They're stepping in to make a difference and push us forward. So, Connie, what's your thoughts on what was just read, the quote, the passage?
So, I mean, I think that as, folks step into this space, there's got to be a level of internal motivation, not so much the external. And I also, what it makes me think about is, just how, because even just thinking about from like a hiring perspective, right? Like, you really do want to hire that person who is interested in like the position. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm saying it right? Like, because I think there's that candidate who, they're just looking they're looking to make $1, right? And then there is that candidate who's looking to see what, not only like sort of the money they're going to earn, but what else will I get from this position, right? Like whether it's the growth or the exposure or, a better understanding of things, the world, life, whatever that thing is. I think those are the ones that we want to bring on, because those are the ones that aren't just driven by, the union benefits, right? Or the whatever benefit they think that they're going to get from taking on the job. Those are the ones that you're going to be able to cultivate, and you can do some succession planning and sort of help them realize different career opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, like, so for me, and I was telling Connie this before the show, this was a career for me. Actually, I even said at the beginning of the show. And going in, I knew I was going to commit myself to something. I wasn't going to look to leave. So just as a fail-safe at first, I went ahead and I looked at what was there what else was being offered just in case. And as I said, as I've learned to love the profession, I started looking at things that I can grow into. So, and don't get me wrong, I tried things that, thank God, I didn't get it, because I really just tried it to try it, but I don't know if I really had an interest in it. Like, I did try for the Special Investigation Division, and I'm glad. I love the job they do. Don't get me wrong; it's not about that. It's just it wasn't for me, and I think the timing of me wanting to do that could have been an escape. I may have wanted to escape out of one thing, and that became a little bit of a window. Now, mind you, guys, I want to mention something now, just out of experience, and also talking with people that are going through something where they feel that maybe part of the profession, they feel a little trapped or frustrated. You got to be careful when you are looking to grow. I say grow, but technically you're really not. You're looking to escape. You got to be careful when you're going through that desperate time and you're looking to shift positions, because the problem is, even a crack becomes an open window, and you're just escaping into something, or escaping, running away from something, actually going towards something. Part of what the article I mentioned is that you got to have purpose. You got to be driven by purpose. You got to have value. And when you become so desperate to leave one area for the other, the problem is, believe it or not, guys, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And if you're not defined by a purpose, if you don't find that there's value, you're going to wind up finding yourself looking to escape again. Because again, it's just you're not really running towards anything. You are running from something. And when you run from something, guys, there's nothing to keep you there. So one of the things is, as I was talking to a friend of mine who's going through it, who's kind of just, the job at this point isn't really what they thought it would be. And it could be for many reasons. You could have bad leadership maybe, or maybe their perspective going in isn't what it was when reality kicked in and they got the position. But having said that, what I said was, what is it that you would want from this profession? Because having said that, if you're going to leave this position, I noticed that you're planning on leaving based on what you want to escape from. Like, these are the things that I'm tired of, and I just want to get away from it. And not to be specific, but I'm tired of these certain things, and I just want to go into something else. And it's like, well, hold on. That's not a good reason to move, because those things are still going to exist somewhere else. I want to know what it is that you're running towards, because this way you have that destination. And if the ground gets rocky and you deal with these same issues, because it could happen again, just in another area, you stay motivated because at least you're on the right trajectory. So now, and I talked about this with Connie before, and maybe Connie could elaborate on this. We're going to fight battles in this profession every day. If we don't have value in what we do, if we don't have purpose, then these battles become tedious, because we're fighting it. But what are we fighting for? I don't get it. But if you're fighting for something and you have value in it and you have purpose, it becomes little victories, because again, it holds you still to the purpose and what it is that you're trying to do. It keeps you on that trajectory. What's your thoughts on that, Connie?
I mean, I think that when we're fighting, there's a reason behind the fight, right? So like, as long as like our intentions, our morals, our values, all that other stuff kind of aligns with the reason behind the fight, like, you have the motivation and the incentive that you need to keep fighting. But I think when you're fighting and you can't sort of make any headway, or you're not seeing the results, because I know we talked about, the process, right? And not so much the result, right? Like, it's what you're doing to get there that's growing and developing you along the way. But, one thing that is kind of sticking in my mind, I had a mentor that told me one day, sometimes you have to go to grow. And I was like, is he telling me to leave? Is he telling me? But like, it wasn't that. What he was saying is that sometimes where you are right now may be keeping you stagnant. And so there may be a reason why you're feeling that urge to go. And it isn't because you just want to run away, right? Like, because I know that in this context, we were talking about that. But I think the go to grow in my mind has me thinking about, there's potential in every place and every space that we step into, right? No matter how long you work in corrections, as long as you work in a different building, sometimes there's opportunity to grow. So going from one space to another, I think literally gives you the opportunity to continue to grow. And it may just mean that you need to move from where you are. Maybe it's the leadership where you are. Maybe it's the population where you are. Maybe your skills are better suited in another place. And once you get there, you will blossom into like this amazing in person that you are. So, I think there is that you don't want to run away from something just because it's challenging, right? Like, because we're going to face yet another challenge no matter where you go, right? You don't want to run away from something just because you're not getting the results you're looking for right now, right? Like, I think it's you're taking all your skills and everything you learned and applying it in this current space that you're at. The running away only, in my mind, it's like, so is it every challenge you're going to back down from? Is it, every time you're faced with some opposition, is that going to be your justification for giving up, right? Because sometimes, what is it, like Thomas Edison says, most people fail right at that point that they're about to succeed. Like, that's when they quit, right? And so you just never know where you are in that space or in that spectrum, where maybe just that one more step is going to be that step that takes you where you want to be, but you've given up. So I think, as we think about careers and growth and development, it's just understanding the landscape of where you are right now and making the decision that it's time to go because it's time to go, not it's time to go because of something else that's going to drive you out.
Yeah, and you know what's great is a lot of the stuff that we're talking about driving people out. It's really based on something external that you have very limited control of, and it's going to shift, right? So one of the things that we want to get to people's attention is purpose and value is internal. That should be consistent. Somehow you're going to align that purpose, that value with whatever it is that the vision of your agency has. You can connect that, guys. It's there. I mean, the mission that you do every day, the vision that you're trying to get to, that the vision is what you strive to do. The missions are what you accomplish daily to strive to get to that mission, strive to get to that vision. You got to have purpose, and you got to have purpose, commitment, value in what you do, because that's internal, right? And then the good thing about having that is even when the career gets rocky, because careers get rocky. I mean, guys, a career, I mean, for us, we're going to be in this career, let's say for me, 25 years. Not every day you're going to want to go to work, but what keeps you motivated is the value that you have in the work you do. And what's good about that is that it's never going to shift.
And the people you serve.
Well,
and
that's what I was going to
serve,
right.
Sure.
I agree. That's where kind of like that internal, like always your service to others, guys. To us, I believe that is where purpose comes in. Purpose-driven people have a service to others. Obviously, corrections is filled with opportunities like that from every level through every department. The cool thing about this having this internal value, this internal commitment, this internal purpose, is that it's going to keep you consistent during those times where the career does get a bit rocky, and most of the people that tend to quit is because their external motivation is literally based on money, which isn't enough to hold it past the rocky times. Or, man, I went from this to this, and it's the same thing. No. It could be, but the problem is that you were looking for something that you have no control of. You should have went into that next position with a goal that you can control, and that goal should not be in the hands of someone else to shift. I read something today that said, own your story and you could write your ending. I mean, yeah, I think it's from Brene Brown. But it's paraphrased, guys, so I'm sure people can correct that. But that's the premise, is own your story. So take ownership, take control, and you could write your ending. And I think the best way to do that is, as Connie said and I said, is be inspired to push yourself forward towards something, or to have yourself pulled towards that. Sorry, that's the pull. Be inspired to be pulled towards something that really connects to you, gives you that purpose. And I promise you guys, if you're able to do that, even if the field gets rocky, it doesn't matter because you're redefined by the challenges when that occurs. You know, you're more inspired to keep fighting because you know the purpose has value. And again, the challenge becomes opportunities at that point. Connie, what's your thoughts on that? Like being pulled towards inspiration or a goal?
I think so. You know, the owning your story is like a really big thing in my mind, because I'm remembering maybe year 5 or 6 into my career where I was like, oh, I hate this job, I'm quitting, right? And I think there's a point where you have to do the self-reflection, right? Like, so what exactly am I doing here? What am I hoping to achieve? And what is my end goal? And I think when you own your story and you have the end goal in mind, you can start to really put the steps in place to what I need to do in order to get to the end goal, right? And I think, we know enough at this point about corrections to know that it could burn you out. You could feel a whole lot of things, right? But if you're owning your story, I think you're owning also the journey. And that means owning that, every couple of weeks I need some time off, right? Like every couple of weeks I'm going to need to disconnect in order for me to get to my end goal. Here's the things that I'm going to need to put in place as I'm owning my journey. So absolutely, if you reverse engineer that journey to see where you're looking to end up at, that helps you to really add balance to your journey, right? Like, listen, I know that, we have this thing coming up, whatever it is. Like, you had a point when you guys were like letting out a ton of guys, you were processing a ton of discharges at one period of time, right? And that's a stressful thing. So like, but you knew it was coming. So like, I feel like, we may not always, you're at a much higher level. So we may not always know sort of that wave of sort of a stressful moment that's coming. But like, you could prepare for that, right? And it's like, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do so that I don't get burnt out, so I don't get whatever this thing is that may happen that may prevent me from getting to the end of the journey. And I think that's where the owning of that journey comes, owning your story, and then your purpose is sort of woven into that. So here is what my intentions are. Here's my purpose. And so you're going to be intentional about the steps that you're taking during that journey, because this is all serving my purpose. And when something no longer is serving the purpose, or it no longer aligns, you also have to own that perhaps it's time for me to step away from this thing that is not in alignment, right? And I think that's the tough decision, right? Especially when we're in this, 20 and done, right? Like, we kind of like have to stick to it after we get to year, I don't know, so like somebody said after year 7, there's no turning back, right? Like, and I don't know if that's true or not. It's, I think, to each his own to make that decision. But whatever your point is that you just can't turn back, like, you've just then got to redefine the purpose in my mind, right? Like, okay, this no longer aligns. Let me redefine or at least reassess this journey. How am I going to get to the end with this new variable in place?
Yeah, and guys, oh, sorry, let me get this. Guys, this is all intentional, by the way. So it's a lot easier to find something external and run towards it, more money, or run away from. I got a crappy boss, hate the working environment. I want to go somewhere else. Okay, but where?
But people always say that. People say people don't quit. They don't just quit jobs. They usually quit horrible bosses.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, though, the problem is that doesn't give you enough of a momentum or enough of a foundation to kind of move to the next spot, because you could still have a crappy boss. I mean, so you're going in from a crappy situation into a what if, so what do we do? How do we balance that? Well, I can't balance a what if by depending on something external, like, oh, the money. That's not going to work, guys, because we've been through a lot of shit where I remember even saying myself, and I'm pretty decently paid, the money's not worth it. So that's not enough to keep you happy. you know, and okay, yeah, I left this boss. They were crap for this reasons, but now I got this boss who's on a whole nother level of crap that I never knew even existed, you know? And the thing is, it's like, okay, well, here's where the only problem is, guys. The problem is that you are either running away from something or running towards something that's superficial and can shift out of your control because you don't control it. But if you go ahead and say, you know what, like, I know that when I left certain positions as I grew in this profession, because by the way, guys, this wasn't right away. This is not something you come in automatically knowing. This is something that's intentional that you work on every day. And all of a sudden you feel it more so. You feel it and you go towards it and you give it a shot, whether it's trial by error, you know, or you just feel it. It connects to some area of giftedness that you have. And next thing you know, you're just happy because you're doing something that is aligned with the vision and the mission, yes, but something that you personally connect to, which is extremely, extremely important. Like, again, you know, just being connected to the vision, but also being connected in a way that highlights the love that for what you do. I mean, to me, it's complete and utter happiness. That's why I said kind of like the enjoyment part. But I want to mention something kind of, and I do want to get your thoughts on this, is that a lot of people when they kind of get lost in their career and they don't know what to do, and when you go to ask them like, hey, what's going on, or what's happening, a lot of their things are superficial. Very rarely do you find somebody that says, I just can't find my purpose. I don't think you hear that a lot. I think it's more like, oh, I'm not making a lot, or my boss sucks, or this environment sucks. And then, so sometimes
you get people who say it a different way. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Right. Yeah. So, right.
You know?
So then when you ask them, right. So I agree. Then when you ask them that, sometimes they may go back to the superficial, like, I could be making more somewhere else. Yeah. But it's like, okay, maybe you could, I get that. But having said that, that doesn't mean that the bullshit's not going to exist. So I remember when, you know, I was kind of a little upset at this profession. And it was more towards when I was in the admin role and I felt a little overwhelmed. You know, when it happens, we all go through these moments, not saying anything bad about the job, just I felt overwhelmed, right? Someone said, like, instead of me thinking like, oh, can't believe I'm doing this shit, I wish I could have gone back. I wish I would have been, you know, back to a sergeant where things were simpler, whatever it is. Someone came up and said, Gangi, your role is not meant to be simple. You're meant to do bigger and greater things. This is the struggle that leads towards progress. You know, so having said that, you're not meant to have a simple road. Plus, if you did have a simple road, then anybody can do it. You're never going to stand out. Look at the stuff you do, Gangi. You do a podcast, you do this, you do that. You want to make an impact. So then you're complaining that you're a little overwhelmed here. I get it. It's a lot of work. But having said that, you know, your purpose is big. And there's nothing about what you do that's ever going to be easy. And I know for a fact, and this is what got to me, is, Gangi, are you willing to go back to that one position and sacrifice everything that you have learned and will learn to better this profession because you're having a bad day? And I'm sitting there like, man, this guy just spoke directly to me. And it was a great dialogue. Like, this guy spoke directly to me because having that growth mindset, you're going to have that bad day. And then when you go back and you say, well, I wish I could go backwards in time and I wish I could do that and do that. Most of the time it's for superficial reasons, because at the end of the day, I may have been overwhelmed. But the funny thing is, if I have that growth mindset and I look at it as a challenge, after I'm done with all that work, I can actually look back and say, holy crap, I learned a lot. Even though I was overwhelmed, I still learned a lot and I'm able to still kind of move forward. But I think people tend to get so lost in the moment that they lose the value in the moment. Like, you know, you can get overwhelmed, but in the process of being overwhelmed with work, if you finally make it through, if you do make it through, there's tons of value on the other end of that.
Yeah, but you're gonna make it through. I think that's the thing. I think when we're in the thick of it, like, we just can't even see how we're gonna get through it, right? Like, any crisis that I've been through, I mean, crisis management is always something that we have to deal with, right? You know, as administrator, like, I remember us having some really tough healthcare discussions, right? Like, what are we going to do and how do we implement this level of care or this treatment plan in the facility? There's like all this stuff, right? And there's times where it's super frustrating, where you're trying to make the point, and there are these external factors that are going to always be the factors as we face new situations that we're presented with. But I think what we don't give ourselves credit for is that we find a solution, right? We usually find a solution that didn't exist. And so I always think to myself, so what if these people weren't in the room to find this solution? Right? Like the fact that we're able to come up with something and we're in agreement with custody, and it's not like we're introducing something, some new piece of technology in the facility that may, pose some sort of security risk. Like there's a way, right? And I think like we undervalue just how resourceful that we've become. I think all of us, I think our front line has become very resourceful with how they manage the population. They don't always have access to the resources they need to be most effective, but they still manage to find a way to make it work, right? They still manage to find a way to control the units. Those nurses, they still try to find a way to implement a treatment plan, even though that shipment of whatever hasn't arrived yet. Like it's just the nature of what we do in the environment. And I think, yes, there are going to be those frustrating days. How many more conversations are we going to have about the budget, right? How many more conversations we're going to have about this vendor and that vendor? And so now, the population doesn't get what they need, right? Like we've been there, done that, right? But if I'm not there to have that conversation, they might go without it altogether. And I think when you realize removing yourself from the equation, what happens, it almost incentivizes you to show up.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing here with this profession, the corrections profession, is that if you want to succeed, and I was reading something recently, I can't remember where I got this from. I
think you should stress that again.
Yeah,
if you want to succeed.
Yeah, if you want to succeed, right? I agree. I think the word success, and I got to remember where I'm getting this from, because as I said, I'm working on this book and I'm just doing a lot of research and trying to come up with topics. But success doesn't have a finish line. It's just more of connected to something else, like an infinite game. And there's nothing easy in the road to success, because if that's the case, then everybody would achieve it. Success is meant to have a bit of a struggle towards it. As long as it's purpose driven and it's connected to something, you keep moving forward, you go through the struggle, and then you get awarded by whatever it is that you're trying to obtain. If it's a higher position, a lateral, whatever it is. But it's not meant to be easy. Now, what does help you get through those rocky times is
Mel Robbins is the one who comes up with that. Is that where you got it from?
I don't have any of Mel Robbins' books, but maybe it's a quote that someone put in from him. But do you have the exact quote on that?
I was just looking it up. So that name just popped up, but I'm going to keep searching.
Yeah, because it's something where success is not, it's not going to be, there's no finish line to that. It's ongoing. And the thing about this all, guys, is in the end, I know Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there's no progress. So I equate progress to growth. In this profession, in corrections, more so than anything else, there's going to be tons of challenges, tons of challenges. And if you don't connect yourself to something greater, I like what Connie said before, the service of others, which could be defined by a purpose 100%, you're not going to have any strength or momentum to go through what would be challenges if you had a good foundation, but now it's more of problems. And I've noticed that too. I've noticed when people come up and give me a bunch of problems in regards to why they're not moving forward, why they're not growing, whatever it is. And in my mind, I just see challenges. It's like, well, we're in two different levels here. You see problems. Problems to me may want to stop somebody, where challenge kind of motivates people to move forward. And I think that when you have people in this profession that try to provide excuses as to why they're not moving forward, but then they expect to move forward. Well, guys, excuses don't move you forward. Excuses don't move you forward. whatsoever. Excuses actually keep you in the same spot. So when people are saying excuses of why they're not moving forward, what they're really saying is, why are they not moving at all?
Right.
Would you agree with that, Connie?
Absolutely. I mean, so I feel like excuses are kind of like the crutch, right? The crutch that kind of helps us slow down. Whereas the reality is that if we want to do something, if we want to make something happen, we'll put forth the energy and the effort required to achieve what we want to achieve. I think, yes, are there, hurdles? Are there different things that we're going to come across that may propose some sort of challenge to us? Absolutely. But how do we use those challenges, right? Like, do we look at that challenge as like a learning opportunity, or are we looking at that challenge as the justification for why we're going to give up? And, I think it is that internal push that says, okay, let me figure out how to get past this because I still got my eye on the prize.
Eye on the prize. I saw that whole series. Great civil rights series. Proud of me?
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Say, guys,
I'm like, look at you. What you know about Eye on the Prize?
I saw that whole series. I took civil rights in college, so that was it was like a 10-part series or something like that we had to watch and then read the book, Freedom of Speech or something, or Freedom of something. Freedom, I forget. But I took the course. Learned a lot. I did.
Yeah, I took the course.
I took the course. Learned a lot. But guys, so I think the result here, guys, is that a career is going to have a lot of challenges, especially in corrections. And if you're not defined by a purpose or value, you may give up without realizing that there was something here for you. You just never took the time to connect yourself to something. A lot of people may just give up because that's what they do. They give up because, they're so focused on something external that they don't realize that you may have just walked out on something that had you just provide just a little bit more effort to, a little bit more intentional effort, you would have found a higher level purpose. I've seen people that have gotten frustrated with the profession leave on an impulse and then wish they can come back. And it's like, why? It's like, I don't know, I miss it. Well, because it was a calling for you the first time.
Yeah.
And then you got so caught up in what you thought were problems and whatever it is that you found it easier just to escape, realizing that, man, what did I just do? The moment you do it, what did I just do? Because your body recognizes like, whoa, slow down. This profession's your calling, and you just left because of something superficial. Like I know what Connie said before too, where people do leave bad bosses. But now let me bring this up. If you're in a profession that really is your calling, you can never let a bad boss allow you to leave. That's something worth fighting to stay for. And it's crazy how we wind up having this purpose and this drive, and then we wind up allowing such superficial things to push us out when we should just go back and say, hey, man, what am I doing? Let me stay in this because I know in the end there's going to be this reward. In corrections for me, I love what I do. I love the service of others. I love being at this high level, and I love being able to have an impact. Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. When I wanted to cross an admin, one of the things I wanted to do was to have an impact on the policies that were going to be passed down. And I realized that when I moved up, that's not really as easy as I thought it was because the policies are still above me, even though we're held responsible as if we're the ones that are really trying to implement these things. It's really above us. So my impact actually when I got into the position, because I still found the purpose, because generally, what did I want to do at that point? I wanted to help others, right? So where was my purpose at that point? Is when I moved up, if I couldn't change policies because it's kind of above me, then maybe what I could do is translate the policies to a way that people understand and we evolve and move together, still keeping within that service of others. So if you have a good foundation, if you have a strong purpose, I'm going to tell you something, guys. Whatever the position throws at you, you're going to be able to shift it to align with your values, to align with your purpose. You never have to change those core values. No matter what the challenges are that comes your way, it's going to get filtered through what? What do I want to give to this profession? Where's the value in what I do? how am I going to serve others? And then somehow, no matter what they send your way, you're able to maneuver it so you can align it back with the values that you have and the purpose that you're trying to commit to. I think that's 100% accurate on that.
So what would you say to the person that's saying like, I don't feel this value. I don't feel this internal pull that, you know, I'm supposed to be here?
Well, the first I would have to know, I think that's a great question, by the way. So first is I would want to know what brought them into the position they're in to begin with first. I mean, I think that's important because I need to know where I'm working from, because if the person went in for superficial reasons, I don't know if they really have something that like I would be more motivated by if the person crossed into the position for the right reasons and then they said, I'm losing these things. Okay, so let's see where we can bring that back, because now I have a destination for this person and I can try to put them back on track. But my first question would be is what brought you into this position, so I know what it is that you're kind of losing. And if the person went into this position for superficial reasons, then basically it's like, well, that wasn't the right reasons to go into it for to begin with. So what else are you committed to? And most of the time, the people that really truly get frustrated sometimes is because they really are motivated by superficial positions. Now, you said something key before where you mentioned something that was related to purpose. I forgot, but it basically, I'm thinking of a friend of mine right now, and I know the reason why I'm thinking of her is I'm connecting her to a thought that you said. But with her in mind, she went in this position with a purpose, with value for the job, 100%, value for what she does, 100%. Now, the environment itself may not be what she thought it would be. May not be as rewarding as she thought it would be. So now, coming from that perspective, the advice I would give at that point is to, again, reaffirm her purpose 100%, connect her to that, and let her know that if you can stay solid with that, then everything else is situational and shifts. You know, you're going to have a bad leader, but that shouldn't change your purpose.
Right.
You know, you may work in an environment that is not the best, but again, you know, it shouldn't change your purpose. You know, your purpose doesn't change when everything around you becomes superficial. Actually, to be honest with you, your purpose comes reinforced because it's needed more. You know, so what I would tend to do if the person was purpose driven in the position and they're starting to lose out on that is kind of get them to be mindful that I don't want them to be hopeless. You know, I don't want them to fall in where they start to think that their internal values or their internal beliefs are controlled by these situational factors and therefore making something that's really situational permanent. So I would like to reverse the thought. So kind of like with someone that's depressed. When you get someone that's depressed, they look at themselves for temporary situations that they would have no control of, and they blame themselves, making things more permanent. Now, if you're kind of in the right frame of mind, like I'll give you an example. I fail a test. If I'm depressed, it's me. I'm not smart. I'm dumb. I'm never going to be able to do this. It's true. But if I'm not a depressed person, it's situational. My teacher didn't teach me this. You know, she didn't teach me this. Because you know why? But you need that because it keeps your ego going. Depression is more of dispositional, becomes permanent, as opposed to what usually is the opposite, situational, and it's not permanent. So I think the same thing here. If you get somebody that's starting to fall out of that belief of purpose, I'm losing it. Now, mind you, they came in with purpose and they're losing it. That to me is more important. Then I would have to go back and remind them it's situational. Don't allow your purpose to ever be controlled by the situation, because now it's going to become permanent, and that's where you fall into that loss. Does that make sense? Did I go Dr.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. You know, I really just was bringing it up because I think about the folks who are watching who may not have had the best experience so far, right? And so it's easy for them to kind of look and be like, oh yeah, you're admin, you're this, you're that, and kind of dismiss that we've all had our challenging times in this profession, right? We've all had times where we wish we could have did something didn't work out the way we intended it to work out, something didn't work out the way we wanted it to work out, and we felt like shit, right? Like we felt like, you're like, damn, what did, and I think for those of us who are aligned with that purpose, it's very easy to go to that point where you're questioning yourself, right? Like, not that you've got a million and one things that were working against you, right? So here are all these external forces that had influence on this situation, right? But there is that, okay, so if only I had known something else, if only I had been able to strategize more, or if only I had this piece of information, like whatever that thing is. And I feel like as people are watching, just understand that the struggle is not one that you're having on your own. We all come to like those points in our careers where we're trying to figure out what is the best way to proceed, right? Like, okay, I'm feeling some kind of way right now. Do I cut and run, or do I hang in there? If I hang in there, what are the steps I'm going to take to still be in the zone and still be effective and accomplish all the things I want to accomplish, right? And it isn't always an easy answer. And I think that's part of it too, that we've got to get comfortable saying, okay, like this is a tough decision, right? Like, and it doesn't feel good, right? It's not a good feeling. And there may be people who, their feelings might be hurt by our decision, or, there may be, maybe disappointed by a decision that we make, whatever, that is. But at the end of the day, you have to be true to yourself and be able to make a decision that best aligns with you and your purpose.
Yeah, you know what? And I like that, because as we mentioned before, whatever challenges you face, if you have that end result, if you know where you want to be, it like reverse engineering, it becomes a challenge as opposed to a problem, because you're filtering it through where that destination is, what that purpose is, where you're going to find the most value, So I believe that's how you convert a problem into a challenge, is by initially knowing where your purpose is, and then what you need to do to get through that. Now, if you don't have it, then the problem doesn't filter. It's a problem. So I do believe purpose, and I do believe having value for what you do could be a filter that kind of takes the problem into a challenge or a opportunity. It's a shift in perspective, because again, a problem, it could be something that you view as it's immovable. I give up, I can't. And then you get the person right next to you moving it, and it's like, well, how was he able to do it and I'm not? And it's like, well, because he didn't see it as a problem, or she didn't see it as a problem. They saw it as a challenge. So what there really is that this is what it is. If I'm making moves to grow, right, I think a problem is really outcome, and a challenge is effort. So if I see a problem, just thinking as we just had discussion, I see the outcome of something that may be immovable. But if I have the perspective of a challenge, I want effort in that. I'm going to commit to effort, and I'm going to see how far I can go. So even if I don't solve the problem, I'm like Connie said before, the effort is in the journey. What have I learned during this process? So it's never really a wasted time. I just learned through exhausted effort. I may not be able to move this.
Through exhausted effort.
Always exhausted effort, that. I may not be able to move this. But you know what's funny, though, guys? Can I tell you something, though? I think knowing you can't move something versus assuming you can't are two different things. I'm comfortable knowing that I've exhausted all effort, and there's no regret here if I don't take this opportunity or whatever it is. I've exhausted all effort, I'm good, as opposed to just assuming and not making the effort because, as I said, it's a problem. I'm not going to be able to move it. And that's where you tend to see people become less motivated. But I will tell you one thing. If that person has a purpose and something gets in their way, they're going to try their best to move it. And they're going to do it every day because, again, it's a purpose. It's one thing they have control of. Hey, Connie, any closing thoughts? I thought this was great, man. As I said,
like this wasn't where we started. I'm like, this
is nowhere near the topic at the beginning. But we're keeping it. I'm not gonna, it is
Oh
what
my
it is.
God, it's good. So, so I see this quote here: behind every successful man, there's a lot of unsuccessful years, right? Like, I just feel like it opens the door to allow for failure, to allow for trial and error, to allow for you to figure stuff out, right? And I feel like, in this career, like we're figuring stuff out all the time, and our next step in the journey of our career isn't anything different. It is something else that we should be working to figure out. I think about my journey and how did I decide I was gonna create a training academy, right, for civilians, right? It was figuring out my journey, right? Like I was finishing corrections and I was still drawn to the profession, and, I think instead of instead of focusing on what is that traditional path, right? I think it's okay to, as we're figuring it out, that we're going to make some mistakes here and there, but we are going to get to where we want to be so long as we don't give up on ourselves. And so I would just challenge anyone, everyone who has truly owned their story, who has decided that corrections is their career, that they take some time to map out where they want to end their journey, and along the way where they're planning to be, which means that they have some intentionality behind their journey. And it's not a matter of just look what happened to me. And I think that it should be the same thing as we pursue our daily tasks, right? Like, here's my intention, here's what I'm hoping to accomplish, not, oh, look what, so and so made happen to me. So I think that this absolutely was a great discussion just about like handling what life throws at us next.
And it's good maybe we started off and ventured off, because maybe some people, I mean, it does relate to career anyways. I mean, a lot of choices we make are not, they're not easy, and you want to make sure that, you do it for the right reasons, because sometimes, either choice could have the potential for some regret. And you have to ask yourself, at that moment when you make the decision, you have to be 100% confident that was the best decision that you made at that time, regardless of what's found out later on. You have to be able to know that at the time I made the best decision. I remember talking to someone today, and we were talking about like two angels on your shoulders. One is saying, what are you escaping? One is saying, what you're running towards. Who do you listen to? You listen to the angel. It's saying, what are you running towards? And what Connie said before is so true. If you don't have a destination, if you don't have a North Star, you're going to get lost when the career gets a bit rocky. And the problem is when you get lost without that North Star, you don't even know if you're on the right trajectory. And it becomes even that much worse, because I don't even know if I'm where I need to be, let alone where I have to go. I'm lost, Gant. I don't know what to do, but I do know people that tend for a moment, I wouldn't even say lost at this point, but tend to get set back. All of a sudden they look up and they find where they need to be, and they're never truly lost. They're set back. We all go through setbacks. But the good thing about knowing or going through a setback is that you wouldn't know you're being set back if you don't know where you're going.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Like, how do I know I'm moving backwards unless I know where I want to be in the distance? So again, and to me, that has to be defined by what you can control. And that's internal, purpose, value, how you see the profession. I don't give a shit how the public sees what you do. I don't give a shit if your boss doesn't give you attaboys. I don't care, because none of that should matter when it comes to the value that you have in this profession. I know what I do every day. I know what I do have value. I don't need someone to confirm that for me. And the moment I do, that makes me weak, because anytime they don't, then I'm like, why am I in this profession? Why? Who cares if they don't think it doesn't matter. You know what you do. And to be honest, corrections, and Connie, you'd have to agree with this. In corrections, no one really knows what we do here unless they actually doing what we're doing, right?
Right.
You You hadn't thought?
No, when you said that, I was thinking, you know, but people tend to seek validation, right? Like they want to belong. They want to know that, you know, that approval, you know, that they're looking for. And I mean, honestly, do we need that?
Connie, you want me to show you? Look at this. I agree. So I don't usually show this, but there's a purpose behind this. So this is me when I became a sergeant, right?
Mm-hmm.
That smile wasn't because I made $10 more a week. It wasn't. That smile there, because that's a real smile.
Happy to make your $10 more a week.
But look at that smile. My eyes, that's a real smile. That's a smile because
you were happy to do your job.
I'm happy to do my job. I find value in what I do. I found purpose because now I get to lead my people and serve them. So again, you know, if you want to see where your value is or where that purpose is, when you put on that uniform in that next level, if your smile is real, then at that point, it doesn't matter about that $10 extra a week. This is a face of fulfillment, guys. Now, I'm not going to show you my admin pictures. You know, I'm not going to show you that. But guys, to be honest with you, all jokes aside, and I still am, I'm just joking, but that's a picture of someone that found value in what they do. That's not someone that's motivated by, oh, I just left a crappy boss, or, oh, I'm making $10 more. No, this is someone that is proud of their achievement because they know it connects to something greater. And if you don't have that, guys, even a moment like this, a milestone, an achievement, something to be proud of, all becomes superficial. It all becomes superficial because where am I headed? That's the question. Where am I headed? And if I don't know where I'm headed, what am I doing? As always, guys, the show is tiered up. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. And next episode, Connie will show us how she looked in a nurse's uniform professionally. Professionally, Connie. Professionally. I meant that professionally. All right, guys, as always, stay safe. I totally meant